Hey y'all.
We trying to get this set up. Hold up. It won't let me do the vertical. I'm at the horizontal.
Mm-mm. It's all good.
I could use this. I don't know. I don't want to have to hold it all. Let's go back some. It should let us do.
Y'all see me in my
Okay. I
maybe.
think we back. We back now. I think
Somebody don't want us to
we
do this
try.
this
We
episode.
trying to work it out.
Gosh.
We trying to work it out, man. We got all kind of.
Hold on. Close your laptop. Let's see if we can put
No,
it in
it's
here.
good. It's good now. I had a bunch of stuff off because we don't do it on the laptop, but we swapped it out, so it's fine now. Yeah, we here now, live and direct. It's Christmas time. We got jammy jams on.
Yep.
I need to get mine on. We relaxing and tap back in for episode. Oh, she
Come on.
episode 14.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I lose count, y'all. But we're here and I'm
Episode
glad you're
14,
here. Even
baby.
if you're tuning in later. We decided to give our videographer a break. So we are
Yeah, he been
going
in the trenches.
live.
He been in the
He had
trenches, man.
finals and he's been doing a great job. So we're
Yeah.
giving him a break. But hopefully, whether you watch it live or watch it back later, we are continuing the topic of marriage and faith, part two.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. We got lot of good feedback from the first one. A lot of
Yeah.
people was like, bro, y'all, I love how y'all keep it real and have real conversation. And I think it's relevant to a lot of people's lives, man. Just conversation, safe
Yeah.
conversations just about things of belief and,
Yeah.
and where you land in your plane. I like saying that. Where you land in your
You
plane
love
and where
saying
you
that.
at. But just keeping it real. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? We're human beings and we need to talk more.
Yep.
Right? We need to
We
have more
do.
conversations.
Yeah, and today we're going to talk about marriage and ministry, whether you're serving as a volunteer or a lay leader or you're actually on staff, because we
Yeah.
have definitely been
We've been in all that.
the whole spectrum.
We've
We
been in
run all of it.
all of that,
And it's
man.
a busy
What's up?
time of
Who's
year.
that? Natasha Robinson. What's up, Natasha?
Yeah, thank y'all for
Thanks
tuning
for
in.
tapping in today.
Yeah, but before we dive into the topic, I wanted us to reflect a little bit about all the different roles we've had in ministry
Yeah.
together,
What's up? What's
separate.
up? Hey, if you joining the live, hit the subscribe button. You know I gotta plug this. Subscribe.
Yes.
Comment where you tapping in from, where you listening in from, and if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments too, for sure.
Yeah, but I don't know, just kind of run down some of the things we've done together, separate.
Yeah, I mean, when we first got here, 2008 in Dallas, we joined the church in Garland, and we were kind of somewhat volunteering in different
Mhm.
capacities. At that church, that we moved to Duncanville,
Mhm.
and we started volunteering and serving in
Mhm. Well, what do
Duncanville.
we do in Garland though?
Like work, I did some
You on the
worship
praise
leads and
team.
um,
I taught Sunday
some Sunday school
school.
Bible study stuff,
Yep.
and then just
I helped count the tides. That was
community
one of my first
outreach,
things. Yeah.
community outreach stuff, helping community outreach
Yeah.
things, youth, doing
Working
stuff
with
with
the
the youth.
youth. I did praise dance, so I would teach the youth dance.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So we did that, and then we did the same kind of with the next place in Duncanville, and you did an aftercare, a daycare program,
Mother's Day out.
Mother's Day
Yeah. I
Out
helped.
program. I did
Yep.
music there. We did community outreach there. Um, did some teaching there, I think.
hmm
Um,
I helped in kids ministry. So that season, we were kind of shifting from just lay leadership to actually part time staff.
hmm
I don't know if you had started worship leading just yet.
it was just volunteer,
Yeah.
helping out. I would lead songs, but it was kind of just volunteer based. It wasn't in an
hmm
official capacity,
Yeah.
like that. So did that. Then the church plant,
Yeah.
and we did
Shout
some.
out to Reflection
Yeah, we
Church. A
did
lot
church
of
plant,
great,
East
great
Dallas.
memories.
Yeah,
Yep.
so we was
Which
working.
is that's the funny memory I
Yeah,
did.
you mentioned it. I was like, I don't remember that, but that, yeah, you was. I guess that's your
So
joint. You
fun
know what I mean?
fact,
I do remember context, but just what you
if
were
y'all
saying.
know me, I don't like being on the stage. I don't like having a mic in my hand. But in that season, I can't remember because there was a worship team at some point, but there was a point at
Yeah,
that church plant where it was just me and you worshiping. I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah. Well, the person who was there left.
Okay.
So
She was
I was
transitioning.
co doing it and
Mm-hmm.
leading, and then she left transition. So it was just me, and then you joined me a couple
Yes.
times. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Pastor Chris put me on the spot, so I was like, okay, that must be God. So I'm gonna say yes. I can't say no.
Yeah, yeah. We got pictures of that. I
We
wish we
do.
could insert pictures of you on
We'll
the
insert it
stage.
later. But it was a beautiful experience because I've never done that. Like I didn't
Yeah.
even realize I had a voice. I was just finding my voice. But so the funny thing about that is y'all know how when you marry on the way to church, it's very common to get into arguments. You frustrated, y'all late. So imagine adding that you worshiping
You
together.
say y'all
That was
late. You
new.
gotta throw
You
that
get
one in
on my nerves.
there.
But you add in trying to worship, like I don't know how worship leaders who are married do it. Like we had some great moments, but it was one day I was like, I don't want to look at you. How am I
Yeah.
get on the stage and worship with you? I don't even want to go to church. The frame
Right.
of mind I was in that
Right,
morning.
right, right, right. Yeah, but
But
we had to
I had to get my mind right and humble myself and um make
tap
it
in.
right
You had
with
to
you
tap
before
in. Yeah,
before I gave a offering of praise.
oh
Like,
man, yeah. I don't remember exactly what was going
yeah,
on,
it
but
was
I can
all me.
imagine. I can imagine that there was
It was
some thoughts
hard.
brewing and just like, how do
Well,
we do
it's
this?
funny because we at that time we had find our rhythm in like doing the music business together, but like me entering into your worship world was different.
Yeah, 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 and having to have conversation about what we're doing. I
Yeah.
mean, we were still figuring out how to talk to each other well,
Yes.
so there might have
So
been
I had to
some
submit to
things.
his headship and his worship leadership. I was like, this is too much. This is too much.
That's funny, man.
It's very
I
funny.
think, I think a lot of times, at least I haven't heard many conversations about people who do a lot in helping to serve the local church and like the frustrations it brings, the frustrations it causes, the tension, the stress it
Yeah.
causes, and like being married, building a family, doing church stuff, and like everything in between, and like just kind of how a lot of that stuff, um, man, we just sometimes it can stress people out to the
Yeah.
point of where it damages the family too. Like you know
Right.
what I'm saying? Like it's like do we stop and talk about all that we doing? Do
Right.
we stop and talk about all that we committing to? Do we stop and like kind of figure out if this is healthy or not
Right.
and everything that we feel passionate to do and we just like let's do everything.
Yeah.
And then one person might be like I don't want to do everything.
Right.
And then the pressure and the conflict
Or
that
they're
comes from that.
resentful that this
You
is
are doing
taking all your
everything.
time and attention, and I
Right.
feel like I'm second fiddle and I don't like it.
Man, look, come on.
So
That's
that's
real.
we wanted to go there today because these are all real issues that they're
Yeah.
relevant,
Yeah.
real feelings, real emotions, especially this time of year where it's like
Oh,
the Super Bowl for
five, six,
church
seven
ministry. Yeah,
services, 5, 6, 7 practices. Everybody
yeah,
got tons of events and stuff going on. Christmas parties,
yep.
multiple services, outreach. I mean, all
Outreach,
kind of stuff going on. And then, man, maybe you still got a family and marriage and
right?
stuff that, man, it's been this all year.
Yeah,
Like, where do we meet in the middle of having conversation around like, what are we doing?
right.
You know, so that's what we want to talk about.
Yeah, so we wanted to start with the fact that like the reality is marriage is your first ministry.
Hmm.
Even if you're called to ministry, you called to be on staff, you can't neglect or forget that marriage is your first ministry. And that's God's heart.
Yeah.
That's God's expectation. He knows he called you to something, but he cares about the condition of your marriage.
Facts, facts. Because I mean, at the end of the day, the marriage represents
I'm
him.
not saying the
Oh, I'm
family.
leaning. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I'm leaning all over that. Yeah, the marriage represents him. It represents his heart. It represents a direct reflection of the representation of unity between Father, Jesus, and Holy Spirit. And so, if the home ain't priority, and if the home ain't taken care of, if the home and the marriage is neglected, like I said, I actually said to somebody today, I said, you can't go use your gifts and talents to save the world, and then your home and your marriage is like
Right?
lacking. You know what I mean? Like you gotta be present in your own home and your marriage first,
Yeah.
and then everything outside of that be an extension or overflow of what you're doing at home within your marriage. And sometimes it takes a while to get that perspective
Yeah.
understood because you're so gung ho to want to do something good for God and for everybody else that you end up skipping over your spouse.
Right.
You know, in the process of that.
Yeah, and it's a dance to it. I would say you're never gonna get it perfectly right. I think the important element though is being able to talk about it and having conversation.
Yeah, yeah.
Making sure you're in agreement, you're on the same page, that it's a safe space to express, if you have concerns or frustrations. Um,
Or degree or disagree.
right.
Like being able to disagree and it not be
Yeah.
like an attack fest. But
Yeah.
it's just like I don't agree.
Well, I
You
think
know.
even fundamentally, it's important to, and this is all hindsight for us, right? But if
Facts.
if we're sharing, if you're newly married, or maybe you're in ministry, or just getting into ministry, I think one thing that I've realized a lot of people struggle with is separating the concept that your relationship with God is separate from your service in ministry into the local church. And sometimes where people get hung up is, man, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, I gotta do that for God, I gotta, and God's like, I'm
Right.
not expecting that of you. And so if you're able to separate that, it's easier to prioritize your marriage because you understand, okay, it's God first, my marriage, then ministry. It's not, some people try to clump God and ministry together.
Mhm.
So then that pulls them in all kinds of crazy ways, especially
Mhm.
if they don't have boundaries.
Well, also then it also was like can become an identity crisis because what if
Exactly.
what if what if there's a season where
He's
you
like,
can't
sit
do
down
it or
somewhere.
you physically can't
Yeah.
do it, like then you really kind of have to hit the reprioritization button.
Right.
But really at the end of the day it probably was
Misplaced
misplaced
identity. Yeah.
in the first place because I'm a husband first.
Right.
I'm a son, child of God, then
Right.
I'm a husband. I'm
Right.
not like whatever that title
The
is,
title, yeah, that
and
you're operating in.
volunteer, leader, Bible study leader, worship leader,
Exactly.
like whatever, like
So
that's the
I
title.
think is very subtle, but it's important. Like, can you understand the difference, right? And your devotion to God doesn't mean if you're stepping back a little bit to prioritize your marriage, it doesn't mean you're not sold out, passionate, devoted to God. You know what I'm saying? It's two
Yeah,
different.
man, and that's a whole thing in itself because sometimes the pressure or expectation outside of your home can be so heavy on
Mm-hmm.
you that some places will take you from your home because the pressure is like you got to be doing here, you got to be here doing
Right.
this, doing that, doing this, and now you so much burnt out working that you've neglected the
Yeah.
house, your spouse, your kids, your own self
Right.
because you've been the expectation is I got to be somewhere volunteering, serving, plugged in, exercising my faith or proving that my faith is real and
Right.
strong, and maybe we ain't even had a conversation about what does that look like.
Right.
And then you got bitterness, you got resentment, you got frustrations with the church, with God. I mean,
Right.
all of this spills over to where, man, God wants you working like this,
Yeah,
or He
it's
got
even
you
some
slaved like
wives
that.
who are mad because their husbands don't want to come to church, but it's like you kind of halfway neglected your
Oh
husband
man, or more
at
committed there, more
right,
committed here.
and then you giving your
Ooh,
spouse the scraps. So it, man, is
that's
so
tough.
much I could say,
That's
but
tough.
I would say that is a fundamental
That's
principle of
tough.
separating. And then you can't depend on the leader to always know what to ask or what not to ask. You individually and you and your spouse have to have an agreement of what you're willing to do, setting boundaries for yourself, because we've
Hmm.
just seen it.
Yeah, yeah. I was seen it and felt it for
Yeah.
myself. I was like, man, I don't feel like doing this no more. You know what I mean? Like, some stuff can become a chore,
Yeah.
and it's not because you don't love God.
Right.
It's just this is more taking more time away from me and the things that actually make me come
Right.
alive when I'm just actually doing something for the sake of checking the box, and it's pulling me away from
Right.
things that will make me come alive. Being with my wife, being with my kids, serving my
Right.
home, uh, vision and game planning here versus just going because my time is taken doing
Right.
other things and working in that capacity. It can just drain you and drain your
Yeah.
relationship. You know what I
So
mean?
I would say if you are married and in ministry, whether volunteering or on staff, just make sure you have rhythms of rest, that
Mm-hmm.
you are intentional about it, you're talking about it, that you're actually practicing a Sabbath,
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
because that was a commandment and it's important. Like
Yeah.
God didn't need rest, but if He modeled it, there's a reason,
Mm-hmm.
and we need
Facts.
it. And sometimes we don't have capacity in our relationship is because we're so tired and burnt out.
And we got married. I mean, you were like a year or two into your faith journey, I think, but I was like kind of.
You always put a number on that.
I mean, I'm going off of
It was
previous
a year or
conversation.
two,
That's what I'm
but
saying. Like you was a year or two in that process. I'm saying that, so we weren't like long time veterans of like church kids and stuff. You know what I'm saying?
right.
So there was like
New to the church world,
that
yes.
was just a hunger to like get in and get plugged in and start doing something. And we had just got married, and like that was a way almost like we viewed it. Like I viewed it like I'm growing. Look at what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Look at all that I'm doing, and like we didn't have a lot of time just for each other.
Yeah, well, I didn't share that sentiment. I think that's the point I was trying to make. If for me, I was always internally motivated by the Spirit of God to do something. So if I felt like, okay, God wants me to do this, then I want to do it. But I think I've learned because I have a tendency toward being high capacity. We're both high capacity, but we've learned the hard way of how to set boundaries, how to set
Mm-hmm.
healthy boundaries for ourselves. So I would say that too is you got to learn that, how to value yourself, value your gift, and not allow people to take advantage of you and exploit you, because it will happen, and you have to guard your heart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm just from my vantage point, it was like we were early on in our marriage and so committed in other areas. We weren't really committed to building this versus
Well,
just
I
being
think that's
active
because it
there.
wasn't a safe place.
And
I don't
so it
think
was
it
just
was
it was outward focus and a lot of inward focus. I know there was a
right.
lot of dynamics there, but it was just like, man, I was just trying to take on anything I could take on and be available. Kind of in, I don't want to say in escaping us, but like we was
Yeah.
working, and it might have been good things that we were doing, but was it the time outside invested that we could have been invested in really trying to make our marriage be a
Well,
priority at the time? You know
we
what I
didn't
mean?
have the skills. So, if I'm honest, in our case, having that church community was a healthy outlet at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and it was small. Like that was a different time. We weren't like overly
It
committed.
was fun. I remember it was
Well, it was
fun.
a lifeline for me because
Yeah,
I was dying.
yeah.
Like I was dying and desperate.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I have a different perspective when it comes to that.
Yeah.
So
No, I did. I just think that in that time I was like, man, we was doing a lot.
we were, but we
We was
didn't
doing a
know how to
lot. We
communicate.
was
So
at
how would we?
everything. We was at
Yeah,
every
we were
church
committed.
community Sunday. Pastor anniversary
Hmm.
service. Somebody. I would look what all them names of them services was called. It was just different every
Yeah,
Sunday. Kids thing. Da 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 da. I was like, we gotta go to another thing.
yeah,
We had church. Now we gotta go to the evening service.
yeah.
We gotta go to the. It was a lot. You know
It
what I'm
was a
saying?
lot.
And it was like, well, we gotta do it because that's
Yeah,
what
I
good
think you have
committed.
to check that. If you're saying I have to, I got to, you kind of have to evaluate. So I think one thing that we, especially mentoring young adults and like young married couples, if we have the relationship capital to speak truth, to them, we recommend, man, like when y'all first get married, just chill. Don't
Yeah, if you
try
can.
to get
Yeah.
overly involved because you're trying to figure that thing out. You're trying to lay the foundation, and it's easy to get into work mode and not, you just neglect some of those
Yeah.
foundational things, and then it's a price you pay,
Yeah.
trying to backtrack. So just moving in slowly
Hmm.
with serving and making big commitments.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Especially big commitments where it's like a quick decision or something
Yeah.
like where one person is a little bit more reserved, a little bit more hesitant. Y'all don't have a
Right.
total, agreement, which doesn't mean like I'm forced to do this. It's like we at least
Right.
had a conversation. I share my reservations, but we're willing to submit to whatever, and it's like a mutual, like, okay,
Right.
let's roll. Because those are pivotal times, and
Yeah.
like, man, you make a decision, and there's a bit of resentment in there.
Right.
As soon as things may not be going as well as they need to go, whatever that decision is, it's
Yeah.
gonna be
Get
like
thrown
I,
back
I
on you.
told you so, or like some nastiness can follow
Right.
that.
But I will say, I think the beauty of being able to be newly married and serve, like, if you are going to serve, try to serve together as much as you
Facts.
can, even
Facts.
no matter
Facts.
how long. It's important for you to reinforce the bond and the partnership, but also is modeling something for the people you're ministering to and serving, like
Hmm.
especially like in children's ministry, them seeing how often do they see a mom and a dad together.
Yeah, doing things together versus
Right.
separate, finding ways to partner together and kind of like go on an adventure together.
Right.
It does do something special. I think that's
Yeah.
that's something that we've been able to enjoy
Hmm.
over the years is being
It's
able to do some
humbling.
things
It's
together.
sanctifying. It's hard, but it brings out the best and the worst. I always say that Brock brings out the best and the worst in a good way, right? The hell needs to come out of us. That's refining. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's a good thing. But it's okay to acknowledge, like, worship, that's your lane. I'm a worshiper to the core, but I don't need to be on the stage no more. I don't need to be on
And
the
Lord knows
stage.
I don't need to be in kids ministry. I don't need to
You
be
would
in the
be
youth.
so great in kids ministry though.
Nah, I got
They
kids
love
ministry
Brock.
right here in the living room, in the kitchen, in there right now. That's enough youth group for me. That's enough kids men. You know what I mean? I got a
Well,
healthy dose.
speaking of which, let's talk about like pivotal points where we had to come together as a team and talk, pray, fast, like really seek God about decisions about whether we should step into a role, whether we
Yeah,
shouldn't,
yeah,
whether we should go to this church, whether we shouldn't, because that's a big
yeah.
thing.
We try not to make decisions independent of each other or dominating thoughts. We've done our best to try to say, hey, I feel this.
Mhm.
Hey, I sense this. Um, have you noticed this? Do you feel that? Hey, can we pray about it? What's God saying to you? Um, we try not to like force each other's hand
Yeah.
in decision making like that because we try to look through it through the lens of one, are we communicating and are we gonna find common ground in a
Right.
decision? But two, how does this affect our family?
Right. Definitely.
Like, how does this affect the trajectory of our family, the time we have allotted to, serve our family? I mean, everything, financials, everything from what we believe in and what our
Right.
belief systems are and whatever place we're committing to do some activity with. Is
What
it
are
gonna align with
non-negotiables?
us to be free enough to be ourselves and
Yeah.
like all of that kind of stuff? We try to consult,
Mhm.
you know what I mean, on a human level, but on a spiritual level, asking God all that until we get green light and peace, and if it's favorable.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that we've, for the most part, have tried to be pretty good and disciplined about in respecting each other and our family when it comes to decisions we make. I mean, at least I've heard feedback on that. Some people have given me feedback. They're like, "Man, bro, the way you say no to stuff." Like, man, I respect how you say
Yeah.
no to things because you value your family and stuff.
Yeah.
But that no comes from me bringing stuff to you and talking and hearing your heart and then hearing my heart and then
Yeah,
like,
because Brock
yeah,
Jones will say yes
yeah, because I'll be like, man, I really want to do like
all the
because
time.
I love doing
Yeah,
stuff.
you love
And
people
sometimes
and
I'll be like, I need to hear a different voice from myself. And then when I hear, okay, I had an inkling that this might not be good, but I really want to do it. Babe, what you think? And then she like, ah. And then I'm like, okay, well that inkling I had is confirmed through you saying, no, not really. And so now I'm like, well, I'm gung ho with saying no now. Like, nah,
yeah.
I don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. We don't want to go there, whatever. And it's because I prioritize my wife and my family
Mm-hmm.
first. My wife first and then my kids.
Yeah. And because we have a vision, like we have a vision for our marriage, for our family, our personal lives. And even though we have separate visions for our personal lives and like career goals, we consult on that. We
Mm-hmm.
support each other. So, we hold each other accountable too. Like, babe, God called you to this. This is your gifting. Do you feel like that really
Mm-hmm.
aligns? And that's important because we
Yep.
want to stay true to ourselves, and sometimes it takes our spouse to speak into that,
Yeah.
and not let us compromise, especially chasing money or
Oh
chasing
yeah.
fulfillment. You know what I'm saying? Like, you
Yeah.
could have good intentions but be wrong.
Yeah. And being involved in that let you know when the season's up too. Like,
Yeah.
hey babe, you know what I mean? I think that time is up.
Yeah.
I think if the time is winding down, do you sense what I sense is okay? Yeah, it's okay to say go ahead and exit that. Go ahead,
Yeah.
let's move on, let's transition. Like you not stuck there.
Yeah.
And I'm not wanting to be a person that's sticking you there.
Right.
And when you feel like I want to be free, and I'm
Being
like, no,
boxed
you
in.
got to keep going. Like, man, if I tell you the stories we can run down of people being stuck in
Yeah.
places or not being released from places or not being able to be free because they gotta have whatever that place is giving them,
Yeah.
whether that
Or
be
just fear
financial
of man,
or
people
fear of people
pleasing.
being let
Yeah.
down, fear of letting the local community down or this or that, or fear of exiting missions, exiting outreach, not doing the outreach thing again. Bro, them people gonna be alright if
Yeah.
you stop and take a season to be in agreement with
Right,
your
to be
family and to
healthy,
be
to be whole, yeah, to get your
yeah,
marriage in order.
man,
And I
come on.
think I want to speak to that. Like, just because you're in ministry, in leadership, called to be whatever, doesn't mean you're exempt from marriage issues. And
For real, for real.
we've lived it, but there's so many leaders and pastors and people that we have coached and mediated that are walking through hard things. Like, you're human. You're only
And what's
human.
sad is the people that they're serving laugh at them and point fingers at them when they
Right.
fall and fail, and then they all, oh, another church person fell.
Right.
Yeah, they might have failed because one, they're human, they're
Right.
not superhuman, they're not God. But two, they've been so committed to serving other people, they've neglected
Right.
their own health and their own self,
Yeah,
their
their
own family.
marriage
And the
came at the
fallout is that
expense.
is
Yeah.
we are in spiritual warfare. We are human and we have tendencies to be weak. So the
Right.
more weak you are and the more distance and separation you got from your wife, the easier it is for attacks to come in.
Right.
And then here you got another fallout, another somebody that's done slipped into something, and now it's
Right.
like, yeah, it's probably because you didn't pause,
Hmm.
right? Take care of yourself, take care of your family, take care of your home, because you was so just
Yeah. Well, it's very easy to hide, from dealing with your stuff because you're busy, because you enjoy helping others at
listen
the
a good
expense of
thing,
yourself. Right. Good things.
right?
But never at the expense of yourself or your marriage is not worth it. And so I'm thankful that we have the opportunity to serve leaders, but I think the caveat to that is that's why it's so important to be real and honest and transparent, and not feel like you have to put the mask on and put a face on. And
Facts, facts.
because you're actually, not only are you hurting yourself and hurting your marriage, but you're doing a disservice to the people you're leading,
Mm-hmm.
because we lead by example, and it's humility
Right.
of,
Yeah.
hey, I don't have it together, I'm working on me,
Mm-hmm.
God's working on me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's important.
Yeah. Yeah. It's okay to be okay, and ministry will continue.
Yeah.
If God is the one that's the security and he holds the church
Right.
together, man, if you pull back for a little bit because you need to get yourself right and get yourself together and
That's right.
reprioritize, man, whatever that ministry is going to live on,
The world's
or to
gonna
be
keep
right there.
spinning, the balls are gonna keep
It'll be there when you get
being
back, or
juggled.
start it over when you get
Yeah.
back, right? Like, but you don't need to start your family, your marriage over,
Right.
or lose your marriage, right? Like, which one is more,
Right.
like, you know what I'm saying? It's a lot of decisions and conversations that need to be made and had
Mm-hmm.
about that. And so don't run yourself in the ground for the sake of
Mm-hmm.
trying to volunteer and serve and work. I hear, okay, I see. Yep, I had to step back from serving and
Yeah.
still on the pause. Nah,
Mm-hmm.
facts.
It's
Facts,
good. And
man.
that things happen in seasons. There's no condemnation for that. That's just wisdom.
Hmm.
There's a time for everything. The
Right,
word says.
right. And I appreciate even conversations where we've had vulnerable. Like, I don't think you're doing all right now.
Hmm. Yeah.
Like, I don't think you, and that's like not no negative shot or like that. That's just husbands and wives having proximity enough and having a voice enough to be able to say that. That say like, hey, I don't think you're doing okay. I think you still wounded. You still hurt by this. I think that you're tired. I think you're burnt
Yeah.
out. I think that you need to maybe kind of evaluate where you at
Yeah.
emotionally and deal with some stuff. And like that's real that we need to say these things to each
Yeah.
other as husbands and wives, especially people who are influencers,
Hmm.
people who are in the public eye, people who are
Yeah.
doing stuff like you need that accountability and safety and don't just keep trekking forward
Yeah.
and not really talking, communicating and having that accountability with your spouse first because they got supreme access to you, at least proximity wise. Like
Yeah.
they get to see you in your rare form when you home, you know what I mean? Not the stage, the lights, the the mic
Yeah.
or whatever, volunteering, like whatever capacity, not just premier positions, but even from a volunteer outreach level or,
Right.
just serving low key, like the person next to you has a good bead on where you at and you gotta give them an ear and a mouthpiece to speak into you.
Yeah. I remember you were on staff in the. Gosh, we might have both been. Yeah. Well, it was a different type of ministry, but like being on staff and being in ministry during COVID was crazy. And I'm
Mm.
thinking about just the fallout that we've seen just in the past few years. But it's because people will work, like y'all ramped up during COVID.
Yeah,
Where
yeah,
the world shut down, the ministry churches ramped up.
yeah.
And so then there was burnout, and then you had to keep going. Then there was all the racial, all
Hmm.
of that stuff. And I just remember how wounded you were, and you didn't, there was no time or space to just like stop. And then it seems like it was years of you slowly coming out of that.
Hmm.
And I'm just sharing that because I know it just seems like, man, I can't stop, I gotta keep going, but you have to.
Facts.
You have to, or you're gonna crash. You're
Right.
going to crash.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I don't know, I just, man, I
Well, it was
felt it.
there was a lot of dynamics in that time. There was a lot of religious beliefs. There was a
Yeah.
lot of spiritual convictions that people held that people thought everybody should hold. Like
Yeah.
the world, God's church don't stop because of this. There was
Yeah.
a lot of stuff, and
And got political.
I'm not
Yeah.
saying who's right, who's wrong, who's this or who that. I'm just saying there was a lot of strong convictions
It was a lot of
being thrown
hurt
around.
happening. Yeah.
And that's kind of always the case when it comes to
Yeah.
religion and politics and seasons like, well, God's the kingdom of God got to push forward. We can't stop. We just need to. And it's like that can just perpetuate a work, 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 work. Don't stop, don't stop, don't
Right.
stop. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Everybody needs to commit, volunteer, push, 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 push. And then the next thing you know, everybody tired, everybody worn
Right.
out, everybody emotionally unhealthy, everybody mentally unhealthy, physically drained, families broken, all kind of stuff. Like we kind of got to find a rhythm. We got to
Yeah.
find a safe pace. We got to find healthy conversations around what that looks like. Family first, then into leadership and ministry stuff and all that, and then find your rhythm and footing for
Well,
that,
you
so
and
that
you
it
have to
doesn't.
know what the word says and what God's heart is about some things too. I think
Hmm.
sometimes when you're young in your faith and you're not getting into the word for yourself, you will just believe anything you hear and like adopt that as truth. And no, that's not actually what the word says. That's actually not
Right.
God's heart.
Y'all chime in the comments if you listen, if you
Yeah,
anything, any experiences you got,
God cares
questions.
about you, and he sees you, and he doesn't need your service. It's a privilege to serve, but he doesn't need it. Like he's all sufficient. He's self-sufficient. And so it's just kind of shifting our mindset. God cares about our marriage. So if we're trying to prioritize our marriage, God's not against that.
Right,
So
right,
it's
right,
like
right,
we
right.
have to like resolve in our mind and in our heart what the truth really is and where God's heart is.
Hmm. Yeah.
And not just follow blindly sometimes, I think.
Yeah, or follow other people's
Right.
convictions, and they're not our own, and so we just like, well, I gotta do this because God gonna be mad at me.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know. Is he really gonna be mad
Right.
at you or not? Like, I don't. It may not be mad at you if you prioritize your health
Yeah.
and you don't run yourself in the ground for doing something when you could
Yeah.
actually have a stronger, more influential ministry if you was actually healthy internally, spiritually, mentally, and you and your wife or you and your husband's vibing. Which
Right.
one is more which one is more powerful and influential and give God
Right.
more glory? Like, I don't
That's
know. They
right.
gotta kind of weigh that on the scales.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of things that I think over the years and seasons I've become a little bit more awakened to. It's like I feel like God get more glory out of our life through people seeing our family,
Yeah. Facts.
versus what we do with a mic on the stage. Like the stage stuff is a byproduct of what we do.
Right. It's an
You know what I'm
overflow.
saying?
It's
Of
it's
our
an
family life.
overflow, yeah, of our personal walk, our personal relationship, and then this. And I think that's what God always intended. And so it does break my heart when I see ministries kind of separating, oh, well, the men's thing here and the women's thing here and the kids. It's like, how often do we bring the family unit together
Mm-hmm.
and resource them and invest in them and offer counseling for them? It's
Mm-hmm.
becoming a little more common, but man, it's
But
it's rare that you get that,
mm-hmm.
and it's important. And if you're called to ministry, you have to know the minute you say yes, like there's a target on your back.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to have the wherewithal and the wisdom to be humble, to be self-aware, to be honest, and to
Right.
prioritize your health and well-being and all of that,
Yeah.
because it matters. We're a mind, body, and spirit. We say this all the time, and you can't be strong in the word and strong in the spirit, but show emotions are broken if you've
Yeah.
never taken it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like we
Yeah.
can't neglect
Yeah.
that. Just like your body needs food, your soul sometimes needs some work.
Man, your soul need help. You need a safe place to be real. You need to be able to have your emotions in check or have a place for you to actually be emotional and not feel
Right.
like you got to be put together all the time, like and put the suit on and the
Right.
ministry hat on and whatever and just show up versus being like, man, hey, this ain't it right now.
Yeah.
This ain't it. And so we've been even the more we minister to couples, coach couples, teach couples, evaluate ourselves and see certain things, we just our antennas are raised
Mm-hmm.
to just be more intentional about making sure that our relationship is intact in a healthy
Yeah.
place, is prioritized, that we're meeting each other's needs,
Yeah.
and in seasons where we feel like there's more time and stuff spent in different places, we recognize it's a rhythm of life and it's
Mm-hmm.
not some intentional neglect. It's something we've agreed upon.
Right.
Hey, I'm gonna be a little bit more busy this season doing this. I'm gonna be a little bit more. My time is gonna be a little bit more over here. We're in agreement. It's not no like looking over like,
Well,
man,
yeah,
did you
it's
see
not
this?
resentment
Right.
because we talked about it. We agreed to it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Versus you just doing your thing and then I'm salty.
Mm-hmm.
That changed everything for us.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought about the couple we worked with this past weekend, and he was like, "What is it really like? Y'all doing everything
Oh yeah,
together?"
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, it was a genuine. He was really on that
He
answer. He
was.
said, "Man, what is it really like working with your spouse, man? Like just partnering and doing." And I was like, "Man, I wasn't being fun. I was like, it's the best thing ever,
It
man. Like
really
I
is.
love working with my wife and stuff and learning how to partner better and all of that. Like I love when we get to do it together. And I feel like more couples would probably bond if they did start game planning things they can do together versus being like, that's your thing, that's my thing. Like you still
Right.
got your thing, I still got my thing, but we have our us things that we get to do. And when we're doing
Right.
those, I love that. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And then I
It's
love
very
sitting back watching
fulfilling.
you do your own thing and like,
Yeah.
yeah, look at her, her fine self over there shining. Do your thing, baby. You know what I mean?
And
And
I feel the same, watching you worship, watching you do music ministry. But I am most fulfilled when we do what we do together. Like we're operating in our unique thing, but then it's like locked in and it is. Even the couples we work with, they see it's that multiplied power when they're getting the best of us together.
right.
It's just another level.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And we're refining it over time. So the things we're talking about are things we've either seen, experienced, worked through ourselves, have become self-aware to, or actually had convictions that we need to stop. Like, man, we
Yeah.
need to have a self-check and we need to communicate more. The biggest thing is talk with your spouse and I'll come up with somewhat of agreement of whatever decisions you're making in terms of beliefs, faith, direction of your family, your relationship, and make sure it's through the lens of, is this hurting my relationship with you?
Yeah.
Is this damaging my family? Is this doing anything to make my wife feel like she's not number one? Making sure that we're not just running ourselves in the ground and we can't show up for each other,
Yeah.
and making sure that we're listening to the heart of our other spouse. If they have some concerns or they're not really in agreement, then don't make a decision yet
Right.
to do something or not do something. Like, just wait and talk more,
Yeah.
right?
Pray, fast, whatever you got to do.
And don't minimize the impact of what this ministry is first
Yeah.
versus trying to build the local church at the
Yeah.
expense of destroying the family unit,
Mm-hmm.
because there's a lot of broken families
Yeah.
that are going on. And what's the attack really on? Man, if I can break the family up, that breaks up the influence of
Yeah.
a lot of spiritual activity. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? And so, man, keep God in
Yeah.
the center of this and like conversate about where
Yeah.
you're going with
So
this.
here at Hearts, we love the local church. We love the kingdom of God. It's all God's, right?
Facts.
It's all that. But God cares about marriage. So we're just saying make sure you keep God first,
Mm-hmm.
your true devotion to Jesus first, your
Mm-hmm.
marriage second, and let the overflow, kids next if you have kids, and then ministry, right? And let that anointing, the peace, let it flow. You don't want to be out of order. It's not going to flow right.
Mm-hmm. Yep, yep. And some of the most satisfying things we've done have been in the local church, man. Building people,
Yeah.
connections,
Discipleship
relationship,
that we love.
discipleship,
Yeah.
missions work, outreach. So, like, man, it's so beautiful, man. And when our kids are healthy and thriving and showing up healthy because we prioritize this, it makes it even that much more
Yep.
funner. And so, like, to Dominique's sentiment, man, that's beautiful. Make sure this is beautiful and let
Mm-hmm.
everything be an extension, and God's blessing and favor rest
Yeah.
upon that thing, man.
Yeah, and if you're in ministry, you're in leadership, and you're struggling, you're not alone. We all have those seasons, but you want to be proactive and not reactive. You don't want to wait until we often like in the marriage to a car. You don't want to have four flat tires before
Right.
you stop and get some maintenance done.
Yep,
So
yep, yep. Well, y'all know we one phone call away. So text us, call us, email us if you want to set up a free discovery call,
yep,
man, to let us see how we can help equip your marriage, empower your marriage, man, and bring some resources to the table that will listen to me. They will transform your relationship, your marriage, and
absolutely.
even your parenting. So don't hesitate, if you out there, man, to hit us up and let us tap in with you.
Love y'all. We might take a break next week. I don't know. If not, we'll see you next
Ho
season.
ho ho!
Listen, we gotta
Santa
keep
Claus
this
coming to
right.
town. It's gonna be me. I ain't got no beard, but Santa Claus coming to town.
But if we don't see you soon, we will see you at the top of the year. And make sure you save the date for our free webinar, January
Yeah.
30th. Just follow us on social media so you get the links.
Yes, yes,
Y'all have a
yes.
very Merry Christmas. If you're in ministry, make sure you rest and enjoy the new
Rest
year.
after them 5 services.
Yes.
Y'all gonna have 7. I heard one church has 7 services. I was like,
Yeah.
ooh, that's gonna be beautiful, but y'all gonna be tired,
Shout
man.
out to Vision of
Rest.
Alignment, my cousin
Oh
Jerome,
yeah,
Vision of Alignment. Go get your
yeah,
gear.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Much love. Hey, yeah, Christmas gear. Hey, that's
Yes.
an amazing
Good
Christmas gift.
Christmas gifts. We'll tag it. But
Shameless
love
plug.
y'all. Have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Peace out, Freddie. If you still on there, I see you. Spirit Led TV. Shout out to Freddie, man, and everybody else that tapped in. Peace, y'all.